I'm Charlaine Jannerfeldt, and you're listening to About That Outdoor Job.
Yeah, at 26 years old, I was still doing seasons, and I thought, this is maybe not something I want to be doing forever. I want to be producing and making my first film.
This is Melody Sky, adventure photographer and filmmaker based in the Swiss Alps. If you'd told 20-year-old Melody, who'd just landed in Cyprus, that one day she'd be presented with the Freeride Photographer Award, be Europe's first broadcast female ski camera woman, and be working on projects with the likes of adventurer and director Jimmy Chin, extreme skier Scott Smith, or freerider Xavier Delerue, she'd probably have laughed you out of the bar she was working at part-time.
Ending up in the mountains was really a mistake.
A long shot maybe, but not a mistake. Something you quickly realize when talking with Melody is that she's not about the road most traveled. Her openness to try new things, just seeing where things will take her, and her willingness to risk failure, they've guided her whole career.
Certainly wasn't something I planned. I was actually really obsessed with fashion. And not many people know this, but I started my own business I was a teen, I think, and I started my own business in jewellery and clothing design. And I intended going to fashion school. And it was only because I didn't get let in, I wasn't accepted, that I did my first season in Cyprus and randomly fell into a job as an underwater photographer. So when I went to Cyprus, I actually just went there to the summer to work in a bar and swimming pool. So I was working in a Swedish nightclub in the evening, and during the day I was working at a swimming pool as a lifeguard because I'd always been swimming. I'd been, swimming professionally most of my life. I was working as a lifeguard, and we had this Adonis diver that used to come there every day to do demonstrations in the pool, and I'd jump in the pool with him. And eventually I decided to go and do a dive course with him. So I did my first PADI dive course with my friend JB. And at the end of the dive course, the boss of the dive school was loading up his camera to go under the water when I was just about to leave the school. And he was really faffing around with how he was loading the camera. And so I said to him, "Oh, do you want me to show you how to do that in a bit more of a better, simple fashion?" And he got really unhappy with me, saying, you're some kid that's come here, done a dive course for 5 days, and you think you know it all. And I won't say the words he used, but he threw the camera at me and said, "Go and see how you can do it, see how good you can do it underwater." So I looked at him, took the challenge, took the camera, and went towards the ocean. And there were two divers at the time, one of them who said to me, "Melody, just... remember the colours start disappearing the deeper you go." And then the other diver said, "Remember, everything appears 25% larger and closer underwater." And I was like, okay, let's do this. And so I went underwater with a group of divers, took photos of them with, under, I don't know, we're maybe in 10 meters. It wasn't that deep. And then at the end of me taking shots of all the divers, Jack, the owner of the school, he took the camera from me. He took all the photos because he was certain I would mess up. And that was that. And the next day I went into the dive school and he just looked at me and said, "So, have you any plans for the rest of the summer?"
The hobby Melody started as a 4-year-old, mimicking her mom who constantly took pictures, had just turned into a job as an underwater photographer. And yet another fortuitous encounter paused her career as a photographer, but brought her to the Alps.
Yeah, I went to Teen in the French Alps to surprise some friends who had been skiing there for 9 years. They were actually my instructors and who taught me to dive and put me through all my dive courses from the very beginning to dive master, JB and Claire. And so I went to surprise them in Teen in between seasons because I had nothing to do. And I waited at the bar that I knew they drank in every night, and they didn't turn up. And so the guy who owned the bar, he just started chatting to me, and I told him, and he laughed and he said, "Oh, they've gone to Canada this year." So I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I had nothing to do till February and ended up skiing. And from there, that was it. I became hooked. So actually in my first seasons, I started doing the ice diving for Evolution 2 in Teen. They found out that there was a girl there who was a scuba diver. And so the guy who owned the school, he said to me, Melody, if you learn French, because I didn't speak French, basic school French, and if you do all your courses following the French system, so they didn't accept PADI. So I had to go through CMAS, do all my dive courses all over again, and do the altitude diver, deep diver specialities. He said, then I'd give you a job. And so I did. From there, yeah, I did actually start. I started filming and photographing in Teen. And I had like an old Hi8 camera, tape cassette camera. And I would film my friends skiing and just fell in love with it. So I saw my first ski movie and I said, that's it. That's what I want to do.
Up to this point, some would say Melody's career had happened to her rather than it being a planned out strategy. But that was about to change. Well, partly anyways.
26 years old. I was still doing seasons and I thought, this is maybe not something I want to be doing forever. I want to be producing and making my first film. And so I also really wanted to travel Australia at the time. And 26 was the cutoff point for a work visa for Australia back then, or going to Australia. And I got university.
Melody actually still got to go to Australia. She transferred there for her second year of uni. With her degree in hand, Melody moved into the world of TV sport programs, then started producing ski movies for Eurosport. She's been based in Verbier since the early 2000s and has been running her own adventure photography and filming company from there. Ask Melody what gets her excited about her profession, and she honestly can't think of what doesn't.
Everything. I'm so fortunate to love my job. You know, everything about it. I'm obsessed with cameras. I love cameras. I like the way they sound, the way they feel. I love the outdoors. I'm very excited about where I'm going, especially if it's somewhere new. I'm really excited. And the end result as well. It's always exciting. So pretty much everything. And I love editing as well. Some people don't like editing. I'm terrible at multitasking, but I'm good at multitasking when I edit because I get to watch Netflix at the same time.
And partly it's the variety that feeds her.
Every week is so different and I don't know what's going to happen one week to the next. But I mean, there's a common theme. A common theme is standing outdoors with a camera and sitting indoors on a computer. But yeah, there definitely isn't, some weeks I might be on a film shoot. Another week I might be on an edit for the whole week. Another week I might be developing my website. So there's not really a typical week.
With Melody not always knowing what her work will entail from one week to the next, it piqued my curiosity and I asked her, how much outdoor time does your job really involve?
I'd say actually 50-50. Yeah, because I really, really try and make anything I do a photo shoot. You know, even if it's not for a client. If I'm going to go out and do a hike, I'll take my camera. I'm terrible. I take my camera everywhere. And so, even my outdoor time or my time is time that's kind of working. So I'd say 50-50, but then, the rest of the time I'm on the computer or networking, meetings.
This isn't to say that because Melody has been able to make her passion her career, that there aren't some aspects of the job that she doesn't find challenging.
Definitely the physical side. It's hard, really hard sometimes because, I'm up there with a 15 kilo bag. Sometimes, if I'm traveling, it could be a lot heavier. And, I've gone through years feeling like the weak one of the group. I'm slower. People are having to wait for me, but actually now I've accepted that that's not a problem. I have the equipment, and at the end, it's the result that matters. And so, yeah, the physical side of things is definitely, I'd say, the first one. Secondly, I would say the hours, because as I just mentioned, I never shut off. It's not like I take a day off during the week or I take a holiday. And, if I'm on the mountain from 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening, I then have to start my 8-hour workday when I get home. So generally I start my workday when I get home at the end of a shoot. So I generally have a double shift every day. Being away from family, that's one of the biggest things to me because I'm very close to my family and I miss them, but I couldn't do what I'm doing where they live. So that's hard.
Being a woman in what is still a male-dominated field, I had expected Melody to mention some of the hurdles women in such scenarios have become accustomed to dealing with. But when I openly asked her if she's been affected by the gender gap, her answer surprised me.
Yeah, I always feel a bit of a disappointment when I talk about this because for me, I've never ever felt the gender gap. I've never felt any gap, whether it be, race, nationality, whatever. I'm just me and they're just them. And so I get asked all the time how it is being a woman in my position, but I've never felt like a woman in my position. I just feel like me in my position. So yeah, I always feel a bit of a disappointment answering that question. It's only in the last 10 years I've worked with women. Before that, it was only men. I was shooting men, I was skiing with men, I was diving with men. It was only men. And so I come from I have 2 brothers and a dad who's in sports. So I've never really felt that way at all. And but in the last 10 years, I've loved working with other women. And, I might have had that feeling before that other women were not as fun to go out with or shoot with or not stronger. But actually, it's just amazing filming and photographing with women. Yeah. But yeah, I just definitely don't feel the gender gap in my job.
An obstacle women in male-dominated fields often cite is the lack of mentors and role models. This was Melody's experience too.
I haven't actually had that much advice, to be honest. I've pretty much done everything on my own. So, yeah.
Part of the mission of the series Women in Outdoor Jobs is to share the stories and experiences of women like Melody, who've successfully made the outdoors their living, so that women who want to achieve that for themselves can benefit from their learnings and advice. This is what Melody would say to you if you're considering adventure photography and filmmaking.
I'd say to really have a long, hard think about it if they want to do it because they're really passionate about it, or they want to do it because it looks good. Because I see so many young girls that really see this whole thing and they want to be part of it and they think it looks cool and it's going to make them look cool. And as soon as they start, it's a lot of hard work, and it's maybe not as cool when you're in it. It's not just going out and shooting and being seen and having fun and hanging out with athletes. As I said earlier, there's a lot more to it. And so, yeah, have a long, hard think about what it is they want to do, for sure. And it takes a lot of work to get there as well. It's not, do you want to make something from it financially, or are you not looking to gain from it? Because there's not many people who manage to break through and make anything financially from it. There's only, there's a few that do. So yeah, it's really hard work to get there.
Here, Melody is referring specifically to the freelance route into photography and filmmaking. With the continued rise in social media being used by companies, the employment landscape for adventure photographers and filmmakers is certainly changing.
Especially with social media, I see a lot of companies now. There's a few companies here that used to hire me all the time, but then they hired someone to be there all year round, to be their digital media person. And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot of positions. And if you can do social media, filming, photography, a bit of everything, people love that because they can just put you as their social media person. So certainly there's a lot of work in that area, and everything's going digital now as well.
I also asked Melody if she'd share with us which of her personality traits she thinks has played a role in her success.
I think maybe I'm approachable. I'm quite open and approachable. So people seem to be very relaxed and comfortable around me. I tend to be a bit of a fool sometimes. But generally, I act like a fool sometimes just to make people feel more comfortable. If I'm being an idiot, then they feel quite good about themselves. And so you can see that in front of the camera, people are more comfortable. Also, I guess I'm honest. I wouldn't, if I get asked to do a job and I think there's another photographer that's out there that would be better for it that I know, I wouldn't just take the job just for the money. I'd actually recommend them for the job. So I think that comes across quite well for clients as well. And generally those clients end up coming back to me because I haven't just taken the job to earn from it.
One of the last questions I asked Melody is what learning she would have liked to share with her younger self. She first told me the story of one of her cringe moments that should actually have been a celebration. At an award ceremony in London, where she received the Free Ride Photographer Award, she froze. Couldn't say more than thank you on stage. And then tried to hide from the reporters that wanted to interview her afterwards for TV. As soon as she found herself in front of the camera, she knew it was going to be a disaster. She felt she'd done awful and didn't do another interview for 10 years.
I think when I was younger, I wanted to impress people more and had something to prove and maybe a little bit more of an ego because I was the only female doing that. And I think the thing that's changed is actually knowing that I can't be the best anymore, because I always had that wish to be, I want to be a really good sportswoman. I want to be a really good filmmaker. But now I've accepted that, I love my job. I'm good at my job. I'm never going to be the best. I'm never going to beat a 20-year-old down the mountain. And so now I'm really comfortable with who and what I am. And I think, it's not that I don't want to achieve anything. I have a lot of things I want to achieve and a lot of goals. I just won't kick myself if I don't achieve them, and I won't feel ashamed, embarrassed. It just is what it is.
Thanks to Melody Sky for letting me interview her for the podcast, though she would have much preferred being the one doing the interviewing. You can find Melody on Instagram at Melody Sky Photography and melodysky.com. If you enjoy this episode, tune in next week for our episode with Dr. Lucy Obolensky, Expedition Medic. Thank you for listening. You can find About That Outdoor Job on Instagram, our website, and a number of podcast listening platforms, which we've listed in the show notes. You can support our new podcast by telling a friend, subscribing, and leaving us a review. This episode was produced and hosted by me, Charlaine Jannerfeldt.